10 from the Tennessee 37. Luck has time. Going end zone. It is caught for the Indianapolis touchdown. It's T.Y. Hilton. 37 yards.
End zone or a quick out route to try to get in field goal range. Looks like they're going to go deep. Dalton to the end zone, down the field, and it is deflected and caught! Touchdown! A.J. Green! Prayer answered for the Bengals!
Grab him, keep him away. 3 Browns.
And they're trying to.
There's 4 or 5 Browns, 3.
Hello, I'm your host, Lamar L.A. Smith, and welcome to another edition of Inside 380. Today, we'll be talking about the World Series as the Cleveland Indians face the Chicago Cubs today, and we will give you an NBA preview. But before we start our show, I want to give you the 380 Player of the Week candidates. You got Jay Ajayi. He has 28 carries, 214 yards and a TD, and their win over the Bills. You had Andrew Luck, who had over 350 yards and 3 TDs. You had Jeremy Hill, who had over 150 yards on 9 carries and a TD. You got Kyle Hendricks, who had 7 1/3 shutout innings, giving up only 2 hits and 6 Ks versus the Dodgers in their closeout win to get to the World Series. And then you have Baker Mayfield, who had video game-like numbers, who had over 500 yards and 7 TDs in their win over Texas Tech. Hello, we're back. We're going to talk about the World Series. You have a matchup of 2 teams that trying to end a drought. You have the Chicago Cubs and you have the Cleveland Indians. One has a 68-year drought as far as their last championship, and the other has a 108-year drought. I'm talking about generations. My grandma, your mom, your brother, your sister, everybody. No one has seen the Cubs win their last championship because it's in 1908. The last time the Cubs went to the World Series, baseball wasn't even integrated yet. I just want you to put that in perspective. So that just shows you that the Cubs is really now or never for them. They were the favorite before the season started. They got Ben Zobrist, they got Jason Hayward, they made all the right moves, and now it's put up a shutout. They got to get the World Series popping today and see if they can get the W versus the Cleveland Indians. The Cleveland Indians aren't no slouches by any means. See, they made the move to get Andrew Miller at the trade deadline, who also not only is your reigning ALCS MVP, which doesn't happen a lot by relievers, he also was the Mariano Rivera reliever of the year last year in the AL with the New York Yankees. He's a strikeout king. Dude throws a slider, fastball combination, and you really can't hang with it. He's throwing sliders that are literally looking like straight pitches, and people are still swinging because his stuff is just that mean. Now, I think it comes down to 3 things, but at the end of the day, all baseball matchups come to 3 things in the playoffs, and I'm going to tell you. You got starting pitching, you got relief pitching, and then you have timely hitting. See, the Cubs, their problem is all their runs have been scored late in the game. 7th inning and later, that's where they score their runs. But the first 7 innings, we're waiting in anticipation. Like, it's saying zeros on that board. And you can't wait with the Cleveland Indians because you have Cody Allen and Andrew Miller at the back of your bullpen, and those guys come to play. Their pitch counts aren't high. They're making use of all their pitches. And when they're on the mound, it's a wrap. You're not getting a whole bunch of hits or a whole bunch of runs off of them. So if the Cubs want to win this World Series, they better start getting some runs early on the board. But in the starting pitching department, you have the Cubs who have the advantage if you go off of names, but not necessarily numbers. See, you have Jake Arrieta, Cy Young winner last year. You have John Lester, who postseason, he comes to play. Oh, and by the way, he also was a co-MVP for the NLCS this year. And you have Kyle Hendricks, who also played well. So they really have the advantage. But Corey Kluber isn't no slouch. He's balled out this whole postseason. But due to injuries, they don't have Danny Salazar, even though he may come back. They don't have Carlos Carrasco. So they're kind of fragile in that front. But I really think this series is a pick 'em. Both teams are not lacking in the hunger department. They both want to end this drought. Both teams have good pitching, even though I say the starting pitching goes in the Cubs' favor. The relief pitching, you have a Aroldis Chapman. He may throw 103 miles, but apparently somebody been seeing that ball when he tries to throw it past you, because people been getting runs over him in the postseason. He's a good closer, but I still think Andrew Miller's better. Cody Allen, Andrew Miller versus whoever you got with the Cubs, I really want to go with the Indians. And in timely hitting, they have better base running, and everything else, I just think that's their advantage too. So even though I'm going with the Cubs because I feel like they have been through much more agony, it seems like it's been Cleveland's year. But I just want to put this in perspective. Both the guys that are closing for these two teams happen to play on the same team this year. So one of them is going to go from probably not making the playoffs to winning it all. I'm your host, Lamar L.A. Smith, and we'll be back to you with the NBA preview.
Inside of 40. This is from 45, and it's blocked. Lions scoop it up. Brad Haley will score.
We're going to wrap this show up with the NBA preview. The NBA season starts today. You have the Cleveland Cavaliers, who are raising their banner. Their very first brought to them none other than the King, LeBron James. And you also have the Warriors, who are debuting their supposed all-star game lineup of Kevin Durant, Steph Curry, and his splash bro Clay, and Draymond Green versus the Spurs. And then you have the Utah Jazz and the Portland Trail Blazers. But we all know at the end of the day, we really want to talk about the Cavs and the Warriors. See, they're the two best teams in the league. There's no way to work around that. You have LeBron James. Did I mention LeBron James? And then you have Kyrie Irving and Kevin Love. But we all know that the championship really came down to the dynamic duo of LeBron James and Kyrie Irving. Single-handedly swept the Warriors in the dustpan. And now the Warriors, they're getting another one of the top three players in the game to see if they, instead of just winning 73 games, they can actually win the championship this year. Now, the rest of the league, we really don't know who are going to be competitors or even challenge these two teams. In the West, outside the Warriors being my numero uno, I have the Clippers, number 2, have the Spurs, number 3, the Trailblazers, 4, the Mavericks, 5, the Grizzlies, 6, have OKC, 7, and I have the Timberwolves, 8. Yes, I think the Timberwolves are a sleeper team. They have young talent and Zach LaVine, Karl Anthony Towns, and Andrew Wiggins. They have 2 number 1 picks. Both are back-to-back Rookie of the Year winners, meaning as in they're the only team in NBA history that had the Rookie of the Year back-to-back years. Karl was the Rookie of the Year last year. Andrew was the Rookie of the Year before. And in a poll of all the GMs in the lands, Karl Anthony Towns was the number 1 pick for who you will want to start a franchise today with. Now, on the other end, in the East is really like Cleveland and whoever else shows up for Thanksgiving. Because you have the Celtics, the Toronto Raptors, you have the Hawks, then you have the Pacers. My 6, 7, 8 is Bulls, Pistons, and then the Knicks. Now, a lot of intriguing moves. They got a lot better. But do I really think they'll beat the Cavs? I'm not going to lie to you. It's starting to get real boring. We're looking at a trilogy right now. We're looking to see who is going to win the rubber match in the finals with the Warriors and the Cavs, barring any injuries. Because in the Warriors, they may have a tough time because I really do think, outside of what everyone thinks, oh man, you got 4 guys. How are you going to check all of them? They have no bigs. The biggest dudes on their roster is Kevin Durant, Zaza Pachulia, and David West. And Kevin Durant wants to stand behind the three-point line with everyone else. So I feel like if you get a team that's going to scrap and bang with them, like the Cavs did in the finals before they hoisted up the trophy this year in Quicken Loans Arena, then you really have a shot of beating them because they're going to have to gain more chemistry. And those type of guys, where two of them definitely need the ball, they're going to have to learn how to work together. You also have the Clippers. Will they finally break their glass ceiling, which is the second round of the playoffs, and make it to the conference finals? We don't know. Chris Paul and Blake Griffin had to stay healthy. They had to get some type of production out of their small forward, but they're an unknown entity. If those other teams can maximize their potential, a la a Boston, who now has Al Horford and a bunch of great role players, or if the Toronto Raptors actually looked like the Toronto Raptors of the regular season and bring that team to the playoffs instead of whatever team that could not find any type of jump shot or could not manifest any type of consistent offense in the playoffs, then Cleveland may have some competition. But until then, it's basically just LeBron versus everybody. Now, the 385 is coming to you at the very end of the show. And that's it, folks. I'm your host, Lamar L.A. Smith. That was Inside 380.
Story. Trying to be accurate here downfield, and that throw is intercepted. Oh, what a play! Cairo with one hand.
Option. So why use two when you can use one? Look at him snag it out of the air.
Andre Johnson lines up in the slot. First and 10, Luck. Delivering and caught. That's Eric Swope, the tight end. Inside Tennessee territory, and Swope is fired up.